Hello, this is Alejandro Bratti and William Eiley from Unlock Clarity, and welcome to the Spanglish World Networks on Single TV channel 250. Please remember to download both the Single TV on the respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. The app is free and is available in Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Roku, and all smart TVs. Today, we are going to have a very interesting topic that we want to continue talking. We have been talking, I believe, about that almost for a month about the masculinity. And remember, when we are talking about masculinity, we are not saying gender male. We are saying the energy. In the energy side, there are some emotions and other things that are more in the masculine side that can either have a male or a woman or a non-gender have also. So, how are you, William, today?
I'm doing well. I'm ready for the part two of the High Wire Act called Toxic Masculinity.
So, toxic masculinity. Why we are talking about toxic masculinity? Sometimes when we are like in one side, but we start to develop too much of one thing, that start to create different type of problems. Last week we were talking about challenging these toxic masculinities with like what is passion, what are the things that we are suppressing our emotions, taking out all the emotion that we have, or being aggressive. This time we want to talk about hypersexualization and objectification. That's the first part of this second part of being uh, toxic in this masculinity side. So when we are talking about this, we are talking about, like, for example, when we start to create objects of the people, and it's not only okay, the woman is an object because it's hypersexualized, or a man, it can be both. So what are some of the learnings on this area, William?
Well, here's the important thing. Uh, I'm bisexual, and so for 10 years I was in a relationship with a guy who objectified me and toxic masculinity all the way through, narcissist, all kinds of things. And I did CPR as he passed over. We're going on like 21 years, 22 years, something like that. So I've been part of the objectification process in the toxic masculinity. So I understand more than most what it's like. And so it's just, yeah, I mean, it, it's like we've gotten our notes here because, if it seems scripted, it is because we have to have some kind of wire to walk on. So it's like the whole disrespect for whatever I wanted and what I was thinking about and this and that. Been there, done that. And yeah, the some of this guy's friends, it's like being regaled for a couple of hours by someone's sexual conquest. It was most interesting, and I really wish I'd cared about it. I just didn't. But it's like, yeah, humans in general can have can suffer from toxic masculinity because, as we keep saying, this is not gender based. Um, I've known some uh, homosexual women that are on the masculine side, and they definitely practice toxic masculinity. Um, it's incredible because we move into the dominance and the power structures, the power plays, and so sadly, a lot of these people make it into leadership positions, and I'll let you speak to that one, Alejandro, because you've lived it.
Yes, so the second part, when we are talking about dominance in power structures, is when we start to feel like me as a, I am not saying again the gender, but when I start to grow, and maybe let's start with the gender. I am a male and I start to be as masculine as possible and taking the leadership in any position, and I start to push everybody in my agenda and the things that I am thinking. Uh, and I have to behave in certain way in order to have people to follow instead of me becoming really a leader. And at the end, I am talking about leadership position, but me maybe being just the manager, just just giving directions without really saying like, okay, let's understand what is happening and let's start to help people to start to grow on this. And
Like
that's where
pushing them along instead of giving them someone to follow.
and that's I can tell you from my experience. I was a long time during the corporate when I was there. I was a long time uh, pushing everybody. Like I was feeling that I needed to push and dominate and secure that everybody is under my umbrella and is following the orders, or I leave them outside the umbrella for a while so they can feel a little bit of the weather. Uh, and when they realize that, it's like, okay, you want to come back, it's okay. You just have to say, I'm sorry, and realize that you need to be under my umbrella. And at the end, that is part of dominant, like trying to dominate without really hearing and opening the other side of, okay, understanding why they are asking that this, what is happening with them, how I can lead them, not push them, and something that we were talking when we were preparing this topic with William, we were talking about also women. I have seen a lot of women that when they start to go high in the ladder and start to get those positions where they can start to take decisions. A lot of the times, I am not saying always. A lot of the times, uh, they these women also take this toxic masculinity in the order of trying to dominate and not allowing anybody because finally they got to that position. And I am not saying this in a bad way. I really believe that there is a lot of women that are really amazing. I have one wife that is like that specifically, that she is really wonderful as a leader in the company that she's working with. Uh, but sometimes she feels like she needs to take the decision of dominate in order to secure that everybody is listening and understanding.
And that's
And
our culture.
exactly.
I mean, and the one of the things that several of the things that get left behind in that situation is letting people use their intuition to solve problems. I mean, caring kind of goes out the window, and so the organization suffers. And then there's really um, it's it becomes about the leader or the manager, whatever that's in charge, and not the people in the organization. And I've seen lots of organizations die because they use up their people as if they were coal or something. And so then I'm thinking of one that's about 12 miles away from me, that the person, Franya worked in this place, and the person who was in charge of her department, they, after 20 odd years of running through people, they couldn't even get the cream of the crap,
Mm.
let alone the cream of the crop, because there was such a reputation for this particular person who was female, and nobody would nobody that had any really good talent would come to work for them anymore because she'd run probably 100 people off in the 8 years that Franny was working there.
Mm.
So yes, absolutely, it happens.
And for example, the other thing that happens with this dominance is when you are lessening the role of intuition. For example, it's like what happens. We are taking when you are in that leadership position, you are taking like a lot of decisions, like for minutes, not even for an hour or for a day, but really any minute you are taking a lot of decisions all the time. and and it's like, okay, you have to think and everything has to be in your head, and if you have the numbers you take the decision. What happens with the intuition? How are you allowing intuition to enter in the decision taking, in the problem solving? What are you doing with that, to lead the people that you have? Are you using any intuition or anything at all? And those questions start to help you to start to understand, like, oh yeah, maybe I am getting a little bit of the too much of the masculinity side. Let's start to balance this, start to connect with the intuition, with the caring, with the inspiring, to start to thrive not only as a manager or as a director, but as a leader in that position.
So didn't you tell me recently that 4 years ago your three driving principles is what? Inspiring, caring. What's on your board there in front of you?
Connect, care, and inspire.
Exactly. So it's like a 180-degree pivot for you for where you were when you were leading or trying to lead people.
I when I was leading, I was oh, I started maybe with a lot of this, but then when I started to get hit by a lot of stakeholders and people and pushing, and even people trying to get me out of the position, and a lot of things that happened with the politics, uh, I started to be so ruthless that I moved to the place where I was thinking that I didn't care about people. I just care about results, and I care about the what was happening. And if people were serving me for the goal, that's fine. If not, thank you very much, but goodbye. And that's really was against my nature, and that's why connecting with this, like, okay, now I am connect, care, and inspire, is like, wow, that's exactly my best version. I didn't know that at that time. I was in my worst version, maybe. And I was getting, and don't get me wrong, because I really did a lot of good things, but the
The method you used, not necessarily one of the better ones.
and even myself, I was feeling empty, like pushing a lot but not feeling fulfilled with everything that I was doing. It's like I was in that rat race that I was trying to achieve, and it's like, when it's going to finish? And it's like, never. I always have something else, because this is not fulfilling me. And that's where the place that we're talking here is like, it's okay to want bigger things. I also want bigger things in my life. We always talk with William, like, a lot of the things that we want to create in the future. Uh, but I have to be happy today with whatever I have today, and I have to enjoy the process, and I have to have the clarity with that, and want to connect, and I want to care, and I want to inspire. That's the reason we have this program. That's exactly what we want to do with Unlock Clarity.
Exactly. And one of the things that I've learned with living in toxic masculinity, it's like a restricted expression of what I was allowed to be, do, feel, have. Um, and fortunately, I didn't actually have to go through the stigmatism of, well, maybe I did, but the stigmatism of the fact that I enjoy certain things that are traditionally known as female, not even feminine, but it's just like, I don't care anymore. But it's just, the quilting and stuff. After he passed over, I actually got back into quilting. It was fun.
Mm.
Um, those kinds of things. And so the let's go with males who deviate from the societal norms. And then we could even go in with females that deviate from the societal norms. I mean, like we have in at least in America, we have female fighter pilots. That is awesome. And how long were they barred because people didn't think they could handle it, which is poppycock. I mean, women have babies, men couldn't handle that shit. Um, and so it's just interesting how this stuff just shuts people off. So
So
action,
let's
action
go to
steps.
the action steps. So, in the action steps, the first thing that we're going to recommend you is be a positive role model. That's the most important thing. At the end, the awareness that you already had until now, start to take the decision to be that role model. It's like respectful about communication, have an emotional awareness, uh, model those healthy behaviors and attitudes in your own life. Everything starts from within, not from outside, not from another place, not from changing the world without being open with yourself and finding even those things that you don't want to see. I always say like, okay, maybe it's here. I don't want to see it. It's like, okay, open it and start to find out what is there and how it's affecting you. So be that role model in that area that you feel that maybe you're not doing okay.
So then the respectful communication part. How does that happen?
When I start to listen, active listening, it's like I can be here, but I am not here. uh, I am thinking about the next thing, the next meeting, or when I get to home, like whatever happens in the future, it's like that's part of respectful. It's like we forgot how to be present, how to be here now. Uh, and when you are here now, you can start to feel things like empathy or being open-minded and start to understand what is happening. So respectful communication, it's really what you need to learn is how I can be here, not thinking about other things, not having an agenda of what is exactly what I want William to tell me in the conversation, and I am leading him through the process, but actually listening.
Yeah. And then which allows us empathy allows us to look at the world from other somebody else's perspective and walk in their shoes for a bit. One of my favorite examples of like communication process and how certain people are marginalized just because one of my favorite stories is the some truck driver tried to go under a bridge that was too short and got stuck. Fortunately, it didn't cause much damage. And so they're trying to figure out how to get this truck out from under. And there's this little boy who's looking over the situation and he tells somebody, he says, just let some air out of all the tires. It'll lower it enough. And they're like, yeah, right. And the more they go, the more that the person thinks about it, he's going, you know what? Hey, Joe, let's try this. I think this kid's got a point. And so they try it and it works. So yeah,
Uh, yes. The next part is prioritize self-care and well-being. That's something that we sell, like I believe in every session that we have here. Last week we did even something about the meditation, but it's self-care. Take care of yourself. Dedicate time for yourself. And this is very important. In my case, I can tell you that I even thought that self-care for me was, oh, I am doing coaching, so I am focusing everything in coaching. And self-care is, oh, because I am learning new things for the coaching, I am taking care of myself. Until I realized, okay, do you have any hobbies? Do you do on anything different And he's like, no, I am not doing that. Okay, let's start to do it. Let's start to have other things that are not job related, even that when it's something that you love. And that's where they cultivate a healthy work-life balance connects. Why healthy? Because there are some times that you have to focus in the work, but if that time is 3 years long, of course that is not healthy. If it's a couple of months, it's like it's okay, you know. So that's part of what we are talking here. So these are the topic for today. Next week we are going to close everything about this masculinity, just as a summary of what we talk, and any question that you may have you can leave it in any of our social media. And thank you for this time today. This show can also be heard on the Spanish Radio Network. Please check out spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and leave it. Thank you, William, and thank you all.